Did they sign Tom Brady and nobody told me? Did they? What happened?
By the way, that ball was caught. Just pointing it out there. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to episode 17 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. Here with me, it's the Stoner. We've got a great show for you today, folks. We're going to be talking about, during our warm-up, we'll talk about the Wizards bouncing back, earning that 8th seed. We'll talk about the Capitals being on the brink, the Nationals, starting to win some games. Thank you, Orioles, for that help. We got DC United, what happened this week with them, and also the Mystics, their week in review. When we get to the game, we're going to be talking about Moses and Chirstian being on the outside looking in, and do you trust Ron Rivera? And we also got the TMZ interview with Dan Snyder and Jason Wright as well. The Wizards will be our post-game as we preview their opening game and their opening series against the 76ers. That's what we got in store for you here on Ref the District. Stoner, how are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. It was I'm back in the homestead now. As you can see, this is not a fake background. I can actually move things around now. So so I'm back here and happy to be back. But however, I was promised swarming cicadas and a gas shortage, and I got none of that. Not that I was looking forward to it, but absolutely none of that came to fruition once I got here. Everything was absolutely normal, just the way I left it about a month ago.
There's definitely some cicadas in the area. We don't see too many right now around our house. Like we'll see like onesies and twosies. The dog is trying to eat them.
Nice.
What's disturbing those? You hear them. So the other day we had the dogs out. We had our sliding door open, and Jazzy, my wife, she was just like, "What is that sound? Is there a siren going on?" I was like, "No, that's just the cicadas." And the forest just having the time of their life and having a little rave party there. Now, down the street, we've seen a lot. And I've seen the pictures from some people who have a little bit more of a closer infestation. But I think most of them are probably waiting. I think it was too cold, during the timing, because it has to get so warm. Now it's really warm. So they'll probably start popping up in your area as well. As far as the gas shortage, I mean, I think everyone had their little penny bags ready with the gas, and so we're back, hopefully back to normal on that.
Back to normal. So what do these cicadas do? I know they come out like once every 17 years. I don't understand. How do they know it's time to come out? Are they just and are they when they go in the ground? Are they the adults going into the ground, or are they just planting the eggs into the? I don't understand cicadas. I don't understand them.
So you got to do some reading on them. They're pretty interesting animals as far insects as far as that. It's like the little babies. They go into that's what gets into the ground.
Yeah.
And then for the 17 years that this particular cicada, because they have different life cycles. There's some that are like every 4 or 5 years. This particular one, 17 years.
Huh.
But then they feed off of the nutrients in tree roots and other things for those 17 years, and then finally that's when they mature.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get to go see them. I call them the cows of the insect world because it's just like big, dumb, slow, mopey things.
Yeah. And then just like that, then they have like a lifespan of a couple of weeks, and then it's over.
Six weeks. They come up. They get busy, and then they're gone.
I don't understand. They get busy. Can you expand on that? What does get busy mean?
If you don't know that, I'm going to need you to talk to your wife. I know you just had an anniversary, so I celebrated my 10-year anniversary with my wife on Friday. So happy anniversary!
Oh, nice! I didn't know that. Congratulations!
Yeah. So pretty good week for the both of us on the anniversary front. No cicadas. We have gas.
There's a lot of
cars.
get busy.
It was good. Can neither confirm nor deny that statement here on our podcast. So we stream live every Sunday here on YouTube. So you can check us out there, Ref the District on YouTube. We are also now an official podcast, by the way. So you can catch us either on Apple. You can catch us on Spotify. You can also bring us up on your Alexa device, which I have to be careful because I'm pretty sure mine's listening over there. So I can't mention that one a little too loud.
Not too loud.
But so, wherever you're watching us, just let us know. Chime in when you're here for the live chat, like we have Sarah coming and or watching us from Ottawa, Canada. You can interact with the
Nice.
live chat. We always encourage that, especially as we get into the topics, because yeah, if you have something to chime in for, we love having that interaction here on Ref the District. If not, you catch us later. Hey, just go ahead and like and subscribe the channel and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support we can get. And,
Absolutely.
on that note, I just want to say that there's a lot of good podcast support within the podcast community. So we want to thank those people who, we're trying to build each other. It's not a competition. There's room for everybody. And so a lot of love. I'm hoping we're going to have some of our fellow podcasters on our show, and then we'll share the love as well beyond their show. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've noticed, obviously, with a lot of back and forth on Twitter and other platforms, that there's not animosity between these podcasts. There's no cutthroat, which is really cool, and I appreciate that we're all just out here just having fun. Nobody's this is not big business, and we're trying to cutthroat everybody. We're all just having our own platforms and getting our what we want to say out there. So that's really cool. I like it.
yeah, I love it, and it ties into something. I'm going to name drop a little bit here. She's been on some podcasts for other people. We might get her on here, Ref the District, at some point in time. But Julie Donaldson came over to my work office, virtual work office, and her and Rael did some training. You'll see that on my Twitter at the Nathan Perry, and then she tweeted out an image with the team as well. One of the things that I talked to them about for work purposes, but also works for us here in the podcast world, is just working together, knowing that when we interact with each other, that's just good for everybody involved. So I think there's a lot of good things coming here within our Washington football podcast life, and I know Stoner, you enjoy it, I enjoy it, and this might be episode 17, but I'm looking forward to episode 217.
Heck yeah.
So it'll be a
And
lot of fun.
that's a huge change over there in Ashburn, right? They have always been very standoffish, not just with us, not us in particular, but podcasters and the general fan base. They've been very standoffish over the last, let me do the math here, 20 something years. And this is a change in policy. This is something that they've obviously made it a point to interact more with the fan base, and so that's really going to help bring some people who were, wishy-washy on their fandom. That's really going to go a long way, and I appreciate them doing that, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, they have the fan interviews that were going around. I believe someone here from Ref the District was supposed to rep us, but
Yeah.
something about traveling, and he ended up not being able to make the interview.
Yeah, so I was at the timing of it. I only got a few choices for my interview, and the timing of it was I was going to actually be at the airport, and the Wi-Fi there where I was overseas. I'm not going to mention the particular airport for fear of backlash, but terrible Wi-Fi. Absolutely terrible Wi-Fi. And in fact, because they were doing it on Microsoft Teams, and I had to download Microsoft Teams first, and it took over an hour just to download the app. So any sort of video conference wasn't going to work. I wish I'd done it, but I missed out. Get them next time.
No, I know we're going to have some really good people. Excited for what's coming with the Washington football team. Right now, though, we're going to talk about a warm-up here. The Wizards, you mentioned this. It was so pivotal that they got to that 8 seed so they could lose a game and then have a chance to bounce back, and that's exactly what they did. The Wizards, lost against the Celtics, ended up not being a very close game at the end.
Yeah.
Face against the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers blew out their competition, and a lot of people thought the Pacers were going to run over the Wiz because they just figured the Wizards ran out of steam. Exact opposite happened. The Wizards completely ran over the Pacers, so the Pacers used up all their points in that first game. It was 156, I think they scored in their first play-in game. Did not get anywhere near that. And now the Wizards play against the 76ers tonight, or today rather, 1 o'clock on TNT. So we'll talk more about that 76ers game. But that was their week. Pretty exciting. Westbrook went from the person everyone wanted to bash with that first playing game to people praising his play in the second game.
Yeah.
And he's a very divisive player. You know which side I'm on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
We're both on the same side
yeah,
there.
he's a great player, and I'm excited for the 76ers matchup. Capitals, a little less fun for them this week. They're on the brink. What's
Yeah.
going on with the Capitals, man?
They're in trouble. If I can go back to the Wiz just for a second,
Okay.
and just because I wanted to kind of give you how I followed them during the week, and I think last week uh, when we did our show, they're getting ready to play Charlotte in the final game to get that eighth seed. So
Yep,
we weren't
yeah,
even
last
there
Sunday.
yet.
Yeah, we're waiting for that first playing game.
Yeah, and I think they, if I remember, they just pulled that out at the end. They were down maybe 11 or something going to the fourth, something like that, and they pulled it out. And like you mentioned, it was extremely important to get that eighth seed, and we saw it play out after getting hammered by the Celtics. But the Pacers game was right in the middle of my travel. So I actually got on a plane when it was, I believe it was 38-34. They were up. And so I couldn't see what was going on this whole time because I got on a plane. I was waiting to get to cruising altitude. And you know how long it takes to get taxiing and all that other stuff. So I knew it was going to be somewhere late in the third or maybe early fourth when I'd finally get some Wi-Fi up at cruising altitude. And I got that Wi-Fi and I turned it on and they were up like 30 and I couldn't believe it. And I'm 100% sure I was the only person on the plane fist pumping. I stood up and did a couple of fist pumps and then sat back down, got settled in. So that was an awesome, awesome game. It's a matchup thing. They don't match up well against the Celtics apparently, and they do match up well with the Pacers. So that was awesome to see. They got the eighth seed. They earned it getting into that eighth seed, and then they ended up obviously winning
Securing
that
it,
game,
yeah, securing it
securing it.
with the
So
playing
sorry, I had to
games.
do that little. I had to go off the path a little bit there. We
You
were
know,
supposed to be talking about the Caps, but
that's absolutely okay because you know what? I just did my whole little rant there and just completely forgot that I have a co-host who had an exciting story. I knew this story. We talked about the
yeah,
fact that you were gonna be missing it. I told you just pay whatever it costs to get the Wi-Fi
yeah,
on the plane so you can watch it. So glad that you're able to have some interaction there. Uh, you know, at least that was an exciting game. That was fun to watch. Not so exciting I will say this, the first
Caps.
three games were pretty exciting with the Caps. Not great results, but the Capitals this last game just absolutely seems like the wheels have come off, and they play today at 7 on USA against
Yeah,
the Bruins. This is win or go home time for them.
yeah. It was very disappointing play in Game Four when your back's up against the wall. You expect them to just come out on fire, and they weren't flat. I didn't think they were flat, but they obviously just didn't play well enough. A lot of dumb penalties that they took, and Boston took advantage of those power plays. I didn't look at the stats, but I think they were like 3 of 5 at one point on power plays, and the Caps were 0 of 5, something like that. That was obviously the difference. Boston has been playing much grittier. They're getting points from their top lines, and the Caps are not. Sure, Ovi's got 2 goals, but that's over 4 games, and one of them was a little fluky. And it's good that you get your bottom 6 forwards scoring, the Dowds and the Hathaways and guys like that. That's great. You need that, but you also need your top guys scoring, and they're not. I don't know how many. I don't think Backstrom scored. Oshie's got maybe one. Mantha's doesn't have anything as far as goals. So they've obviously now they're up against it. Obviously, they lose, the season's over, and it'll be very disappointing. Third year in a row after the Stanley Cup that they get knocked out in the first round. Can't have that. They at least got to show some heart today and come back and win this game.
Well, they got to take it from the Nationals. Just go 1-0 today. That's all they need to
Yeah,
do.
that's right.
Focus on today's game. See where they can go. The Nationals trying to go 1-0 today as well against the Orioles. They're playing at 105 against Baltimore, and that's on Masson, MASN. So if you can grab that channel, then great for you. I know that some of us have issues trying to tap into that network, but
You don't get Masson?
I don't get Masson.
Oh,
So
well, you're probably not missing a whole lot as far as not the baseball part, but Masson, they made a lot of cuts in the off season. Everybody made a lot of cuts because of the pandemic, and they lost a lot of money there. They made some cuts, and their production is second rate. Sorry, Masson, but they are terrible. They don't have um, the they don't even have like real pregame shows and postgame shows anymore. They just take the guys who are already working and have them talk a little bit about the game. But I'm getting a little bit off track. We're supposed to be talking about the Nats, but they've been playing well. But I think that has a lot to do with who they're playing.
Yeah, I
The
was about to
Orioles
say
are
playing
pooping.
Baltimore helps, right? Playing
Yeah.
against the Orioles helps. They had the series against the Cubs, only pull one a win away from the Cubs during that series. Baltimore, it seems to be going well. You have Zimmerman who just knocks has been knocking it out of the park. He's been a great player for in those spot roles that he's needed this season.
What is going on with Zimmerman? What? I mean, he's hitting 320 something with like five homers. What?
It's because he doesn't have to play. He's not being. He's not. He's a spot player right now, right? He's not
Yeah.
playing full thing, so he can focus on the game. He's got that old man strength. We always knew the guy could launch the ball, and
Yeah.
so in his limited play, that's exactly what he's doing. And it's been great, and I believe he is now the current run holder, right? He's got the most.
Yeah.
For Washington.
Most
So
runs scored in franchise history.
yeah, so
But
congratulations to Zim
yeah,
for that
absolutely.
accomplishment.
So I believe it was 2019. When did they win? They won in 2019?
Yeah, it's 2018
Or
for the Caps
yeah,
and
2019.
2019 for for the Nationals, and the Mystics both won
Yeah.
in
I
2019.
believe maybe you could probably find this on my Twitter. I believe I said Zimmerman was done in 2019. I think when he got hurt again, it was his foot again, which had been bothering him forever. I said that's it. That's the last time you'll ever see him. And then when he opted out this past year, I doubled down. I said, well, that's it. He's never going to play for the Nats again. And here he is, just crushing the ball and doing exactly what they need him to do. He might play another 5 years in this role. Who knows?
Of course, now that you said this, now that you reversed course, now he's going to
Oh no.
retire at the end of the season
Yeah,
because you said that. You were the reverse curse king,
I am.
and so we need you to keep with that mojo long
Okay, he's
enough for
terrible.
all of our teams to turn it around. So obviously, I'm sporting some Nationals gear today, hoping that they do win against Baltimore again. That's 105 on Masson. Check them out. It's a busy day for us. So are you going to watch the Nationals against the Orioles? You're going to watch the Wizards, against the 76ers at 1 o'clock, or are you going to watch the Mystics, who play against Indiana, also at 1 o'clock? The Mystics had a up and down week. They lose against the Phoenix Mercury, but then they win big against the Liberty, the New York Liberty. Today they play the Fever. So the Indiana Fever's
Okay.
not doing well this season, 0-4. Mystics hopefully can get to 500 is the hope here, and continue their season.
How the heck do the Mystics go from their first game? I think they scored 56 ish, and they shot like 28% from the field and 13%, which we talked about a couple weeks ago or last week. And then they score 101 in their last game, and they shot 50 something percent from the field and
Law
60%
law of
from three.
averages. It's
What the
it's
heck
it's
happened
it's
there?
the fun math. It's law of averages. In the
Good for
end,
them.
yeah, in the end, hopefully they trend more towards that positive side and not so much towards to the side where they did start off their season. DC United plays today. They play against Philadelphia Union. I don't imagine we're going to have too many people watching that, as because it's the same time as the Capitals playing.
Hmm.
So DC United against Philadelphia today at 7:15. That is on ESPN Plus. Maybe
Oh,
you got the
nice.
situation where you can have like ESPN Plus over here. You got the
Hmm.
you got USA over here. However you can do it. Support our teams. That's great. DC
Where?
United lost to Orlando last week. Philadelphia
Yeah.
Union this week. So hopefully they can get the W.
Where is that game? Is that in
This I
Philly
want to
or is it at
say
home?
that's here in United. That's at DC, but I will have to verify that because I did
I'm
not write
I'm
that down.
wondering what their stadium situation is as far as the number of fans allowing games. It is in DC, and I don't know what their current policy is, but yeah, I'm just curious of how many fans they're going to have there tonight. Then,
Because they weren't included on that, were they? With the same as the Nationals, the Wiz, and the Caps. Do we know if they were listed on that exemption letter?
well, I mean they should be.
They
They're
should.
literally
It is at
across the
Audi
street
Field, by the
from.
way.
Oh,
So
it's where?
it's at Audi Field here in
Oh, okay.
DC. So it's
That's
it's it's a
literally
home game.
across the street from Nats Park, so
Yep.
it should have the same rules that apply to the Nationals. I mean, eventually it's going to open up to everybody and it's going to be packed again. I haven't been to a United game at Audi Field yet. I'm looking forward to someday doing that. But yeah, so hopefully they can get a good crowd in there tonight then.
Hopefully, rooting for all our teams here in the
Heck
DC
yeah.
area. Well, that's it for the warm up. We're going to get to the game here in a moment, talking do you trust Ron Rivera? Find our answer here coming up. Game on. Big week for Washington football as they drop two tackles. Fan favorite apparently in Morgan Moses. There's a lot of people who are upset with that drop. I think most people expected Chirstian to, he's a depth guy. He's, not a lot of people I think, saw the development that he had. But people are really upset about Morgan Moses. Where are you sitting on this one?
Well, and I know we're going to talk about it here after we talk about these guys, but obviously Ron Rivera knows a lot more about what's going on in the locker room or what he wants from his offensive line than we do as fans. We don't know what's going on. We have no idea. So he obviously didn't want Morgan Moses to be his right tackle this year. So he let him go. So I guess you just sit back and you say, in Ron we trust, right? IRWT. In Ron we trust. Yeah, that's right. IRWT. So I guess he's been a warrior. He's played through all kinds of injuries. What is it? 90 something starts he's had for this team. He's done, as far as I know, everything that's been asked of him, and he's been an okay tackle. But they're obviously restructuring their entire offensive line, and he doesn't fit into those plans, so they had to let him go.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation here because, and we have one person who's watching our live feed right now who's ticked about Moses. To me, I expected it. Like I've never been too high on Moses. Maybe because I remember him from his earlier years where he was
Yeah,
very
it was
penalty
terrible.
prone. Sometimes just like letting guys. I forget which opponent it was, but I just remember vividly him just standing there as one of the pass rushers just runs
I remember
right
that.
by him, and
I
I'm just
remember
like,
that.
what are you doing? But he had an excellent year last year. I know a lot of people love the Pro Football Focus scores as PFF
Mm-hmm.
scores. Apparently graded as one of the top 10 right tackles there. But overall, this is a guy who I think can be replaced, and I think that they found some replacements, right,
Mm-hmm.
within the tackle organization. So I'm not too surprised. I was initially shocked when they said, "Hey, we're going to let him seek a trade." Right when that got leaked, not shocked at all that it ended up being cut. Right because when that news comes out, unless somebody jumps at the player right away, it almost always ends in cutting. And there's
Yeah.
to me it almost seems counterproductive unless it's a star player to say, hey, we're shopping them, because now every team, the 31 other teams know you're going to cut this individual if you
Hmm.
don't get a deal. So why give up a fifth round pick or sixth or seventh, which honestly, Morgan Moses probably only worth a seventh round pick, maybe even just a seventh round pick swap. And I know some people might be upset with me saying that, but listen, this guy hasn't exactly been picked up yet. He was cut, a few days ago. If he was a top 10, seen as a top 10 right tackle, he would be on a team right now.
Well, yes, true. I will say that the reason you put it out there, if somebody does want him, they sure you can say, well, we can just wait until he hits the open market, but then now you're competing against
Competing, yeah.
30 some 31 other teams for his services, and so it might not be as easy for you to take him. So that's why you would possibly trade for him. But obviously there wasn't enough interest, like you said, and he hasn't been picked up, and Chirstian has already been picked up, which tells you a little bit. Although Moses is going to have a higher cap hit, he's going to
Mm-hmm.
command a lot more money than Chirstian is. And Chirstian, a total bust, third rounder, right? He was supposed to come in here, and I know you and I have a fundamental difference on third round, second and third round picks. I believe second and third round picks should always be considered as a starter. That's why you draft him. So I believe he should have been starting almost from day one. Trent was here at the
As a
time.
third rounder starting day?
Absolutely.
No, he's not going to start as a third
100%.
rounder. No, I
A
agree. A
third
second
round.
and third rounder, you're hoping gets to the starter role. But when it comes to your offensive line, a third rounder can just be a good depth guy, and I think that's what Chirstian is, and that's also why he got signed. By the way, he's not being signed to start. I don't think he's going to start. I think that they picked him up because he's still, this guy was drafted in the third round, 2018, was it?
Yeah, very recently.
Yeah. So this is a very young, offensive tackle that you can have as a good depth guy. Moses, on the other hand, has had so much starting time. That's where you mentioned Morgan Moses is gonna get starter pay, and he's gonna want, expect to start. You're not picking him up for depth at this point, unless you're somebody who, like the Kansas City Chiefs, who spent a lot of money on their offensive line,
Hmm.
but obviously they're not going to pick him up. But I think Moses will find a team here within the next couple of weeks, because
Sure. Oh, 100%.
he is somebody who you can put out on the right side, but Washington just wasn't that place for him. And there's a lot of talk, and there was the article that brought it back to the ping pong table and getting rid of
Yeah,
that.
I saw
A
that.
lot of people think that Ron Rivera is just trying to get rid of everybody who came before him, which we know is not going to happen, because there's no way you're getting rid of Terry McLaurin, right? Like that was a guy who came
Well, that's true.
before Ron Rivera. But I think there's a lot of people who might still players in the organization who might still have some of that mentality of how things were. And
Yeah.
this is where Moses, a guy who has been with the team for as long as he has, a lot of his upbringing, a lot of his mindset, but by all accounts, he was a strong leader for the team. He's doing a lot of the old man leadership roles, even though he's still fairly young himself.
Yeah, but he was also very critical of the organization, especially with the Trent Williams situation, because he was close with Trent Williams. And that will get you in a little bit of trouble, especially like you said, you got a new regime coming in here, and they're going to clean house with guys who may be right on the edge of being a starter or not playing at all. So Ron is obviously getting rid of a lot of those guys. But look, if you're a superstar and you can play, it doesn't matter what happened before you got here. You're gonna stick with the team. He's not getting rid of those kind of guys.
Well, again, I think it helps that there's not too many superstars, from the Gruden era
Hmm.
to like hold on to, and in like McLaurin had 1 year of it, so it's just and he's just a different player. He's the captain for a reason is what
Yeah.
he likes to be called. I know a lot of people call him Scary Terry, but he prefers to go by the captain. And you know what? I'm going to respect that wishes
Heck
because
yeah.
I like him. So the captain doing well.
You're not getting rid of Jonathan Allen, right?
No,
I mean, he's a
he needs to be
A Gruden
signed to a
pick.
new deal, and that's where some people think that this might have also be in play here. Is that they're trying to open up room. There's super optimistic people who are like they're making room so they can take on Aaron
Uh,
Rodgers' contract.
hey,
More realistically, this is so you can sign players like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. Sweat is coming up. These are a lot of contracts. Do you think Sheriff is somebody who's going to be Brandon Sheriff? Like he's playing on franchise tag.
yeah.
Is this deal getting close?
Ah, I thought for the longest time that this was a top priority for this organization, but I'm beginning to think now that he's gone. And he might even be gone before the season starts.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes. He's a huge cap hit right now. He
Yeah,
says
oh
he
yeah.
wants to be here, but they haven't been able to work out a deal. And the word is that Washington did offer him money. But here's the thing, and this is one of the things I think I really love about the organization under Ron Rivera and Jason Wright and everything how it's been going here the last couple of years. The leaks have gone down
Mm-hmm.
tremendously. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. Like there's not that information that's flowing. So I think it's an interesting situation. And on the tackle front, we did have a player who was upset when Leno signed, and now all of a sudden we don't get rid of that player, we get rid of a different player. So there's a whole lot of shuffling going on that line. And I do think that
Yeah.
Brandon Sheriff is going to be one of these people who's not on the team next season. We'll see what happens. I think it's too difficult to trade at this point. So I think Washington doesn't get anything in return. Uh, they should be able to get the compensatory, the comp pick, after he signs with another team. But
Yeah.
you would hope, for an all-pro guard that you're going to get good, good
Value.
return, but
Yeah.
end up being a third-round pick.
Yeah, so I think also it's interesting with this offensive line is we really don't know who is going to start anywhere almost. You got Chase Rouillet and you got Sheriff as long as he's going to be here. Really, you don't know anybody else who's going to be where. You don't know if they have Sadiq Charles plugged in at left tackle. You don't know who's going to be the left guard for sure. You don't know who's going to be the right tackle. They're signing guys. They're moving guys around. Now you got Cosme in the mix, of course, along with Sharp and Lucas and Leno, who they just signed, and Wes Martin and Schweitzer. All these guys. Who knows who's going to end up where by the time the season starts?
I think Cosme has a good chance to start at right tackle, but then
Hmm.
again, I think they signed Leno to be the left tackle. So left tackle. I think that's a
Oh, okay.
lock. As long as Sheriff's healthy, he's going to be the right guard. Chase Roulier, I don't think we have another center, that's as good as him. So, and he's been playing really well too, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
he's our center. So really, it's that left guard and right tackle position. Does Lucas, who was the one who voiced his concerns weren't with the team. His concerns were with media saying that Washington doesn't have a tackle. And Lucas is just like, dude, what?
Hello.
Like, I'm here. I'm standing right here.
Yeah.
And you were standing right there, Lucas, as you weren't necessarily the strongest left tackle, but you were very serviceable. And one of these guys that I like to have on the team, like a Moses, who provides quality starts, maybe not the greatest, but at least can hold their own. I think maybe Lucas shifts to the right or Cosme takes the right tackle spot. And then, like I said, Leno for the left. The left guard is where it's going to be interesting. The Sadiq Charles, they don't see him as a tackle.
Yeah.
This is a guard. And so is it going to be Sadiq Charles or is it Eric Flowers who you just
Oh
got
yeah.
back?
Didn't even mention him. That's
And
right.
so the Flowers trade is actually one of those ones that's very interesting because this is where I think that Sheriff is not going to be here long term. I think they are prepping for Brandon Sheriff to sign somewhere else, and I
Yeah.
honestly think they're okay with that. and they're building towards that right now. So you're going to have Eric Flowers and C. Charles, who are going to be the guards for next season. This season, though, Brandon Sheriff will probably play himself into a mega contract, and all the better for him because that means he's doing that for Washington this season, and
Right.
hopefully we can get good play for some out of a guard next season. But hey, we have a saying here on Ref the District, all right? So we're not a scout, we're not the GM, we're not a coach.
Nope.
Hashtag just a fan.
That's
Okay,
right.
so this is our take on it. This is our speculation. But as fans, this has come up. There's a lot of contention in here. You know, this Moses thing brought it to the front here, the front line. Do you trust Ron Rivera?
Well, until he proves otherwise, absolutely, you have to trust him. That's the bottom line. That's the bluff, as we say, right? Bottom line up front. You have to trust him until he gives you a reason not to, right? And as you just said, we're just fans. We don't really know anything. Ron Rivera knows more about running an organization. He has more knowledge in his tip of his pinky finger. I always like to say this. He has more football knowledge in the tip of his finger than all of the fans combined have in all of their collective brains. Okay? Including us. I'm not saying all of them, including us here. He knows more than any of us do. So we have to trust him, right? He has a plan. He's not just willy-nilly throwing things out there. Oh, I guess we're going to get rid of this guy and maybe we'll pick up this guy. They know exactly what they're doing. We don't know, but he knows exactly what he's doing. And all we can do is trust him until we get to the end of the year and we see what the results are. We look at the one-loss record. We see whether or not this team is improving, and then we judge what he's done.
Okay, so there's a lot of blind trust here. And so can you
Yeah.
not at least see the side where people are a little that do question it? You know, this is a coach who in his first season, while they won the division, were 7-9. Not a
Mm-hmm.
winning record. You know, they looked pretty lost. You know, as far as he hasn't given a reason to not trust him, I'm going to point back to the Dwayne Haskins situation, right? There's going to be a competition, but he was anointed. Dwayne Haskins, you could tell, was anointed as the starter to try to give
Yeah.
him that chance to try to boost him. Then you pull him to put in, you know, Kyle Allen because you have a shot, and hey, you can tell that Dwayne Haskins isn't the guy. That situation ended up pretty horrible, and even coach Ron Rivera had said afterwards, like, I really wish he wishes that he would have played that differently. To me, that
Right.
there are reasons to question, you know, what's going on in the organization. Now, that being said, there's a lot of reasons to just give him that trust and to
Mm-hmm.
trust in the you know what they have been doing because you feel like they're building towards something. But I
That's
do
right.
think that there's like the blind trust, the blanket blind trust is what I think that we need as fans to not necessarily, you know, get ourselves into. Now, I'm not going to question every single decision. One,
Mm-hmm.
I'm backing the Moses decision. I think it's fine. Like, okay, it surprised me a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm good with that. I think that they've got a lot of good young people's, you know, good young players in the organization to put in there. And I do think that Ron Rivera knows what he's doing. But there are certain things that I'm a little bit more hesitant to back because of that, like the situation with Dwayne Haskins last season, the fact that this isn't a winning organization just yet. You know, I agree with you. There's a lot of wait and see here, and so you have to give that trust to. And I think that he's earned that. Okay, let me say
Mm-hmm.
this before I get beat up. You know, when someone sees this and they think that I don't trust Ron Rivera, I trust him. I think that absolutely this is a strong leader. I think that he's moving the right. We talked about the fact that the leaks are on lockdown. He's putting football-minded people in the decision areas. We've got how many GMs now? Like
Right.
so, this is we're moving away from an organization that was perennially not good, right? This is a team that we grew up loving They won the 3 Super Bowls, 5 NFL championships. I just want to point that out because we got some Cowboy fans that like to tout their Super Bowls. Like, we have 5 NFL championships, the same as you. Just FYI, Cowboy fan.
That's right.
But yeah, so 3 Super Bowls. This is the team that we grew up loving with the fun bunch, the Smurfs. You got the Hogs, you got the Hogettes that we loved in the fans. And so there's a lot of that culture that we've lost under the Dan Snyder era. And I think that's where fans are a little burnt, right? You have, Dan the Fan Snyder as an owner, and in these 20 some odd years that he's been the owner, the team's just not been good. Even under Joe Gibbs 2.0, where he actually did honestly, I think the best he could have, and still just the caliber of coach that he is just outstanding. But this entire time's not been good. So I think that we're burnt at this point. We can't blindly trust anybody who's put in a position as long as Dan Snyder's still there, and we have to question. We're going to be talking about the TMZ video, and there are people who are questioning that. Was that planted? That didn't seem natural? So it's just like, for Coach Ron Rivera, you're talking about trusting somebody who you have to hope that you have to trust that Dan Snyder is not putting his hands into the pot here. If it's Ron Rivera making decisions, I'm good with that. If Dan is involved in those decisions, that's where it starts to get a little bit like, what's going on here? But no, Morgan Moses, absolutely. Chirstian, gone. Okay, I believe in that. Starting Fitzpatrick. If they come week 1 and we're starting Taylor Heineke, I will probably trust that. I will be like, okay, not exactly what I expected. I know a lot of people will be ecstatic. You think Taylor Heineke is going to, start after, weeks 4, right? Like,
not because of Heineke, though.
Yeah, because Fitzpatrick won't play well.
Right.
So I just think that yes, we need to trust Ron Rivera.
Well, look,
but blind trust is where I call it, too much.
Well, for sure. I mean, we're called Ref the District, right? We keep DC teams accountable, right? So the whole reason we exist here as a podcast is to second guess everything that goes on in Washington, D.C. sports. So obviously the football team being front and center, we're going to hammer them most of anybody. But here's a coach who has come in and he took them from 3 wins to 7. You'd take that regardless if they had made the playoffs as a 7-9 team. You'd take that huge 4-game improvement over the course of a year. Sure, there were bumps along the way, especially with the Haskins situation. Maybe even that cost him a couple of wins. But he's not going to do everything perfect. But in the end, again, you look back at the end of the year and you say, was this a successful season based on the season before? And do you have hope going forward? And we definitely do with all the decisions that he's made. He's gotten rid of knuckleheads. He's gotten rid of guys who don't want to be here. He's gotten rid of guys who don't perform. He's not playing favorites. Think of some of the guys who were starters here and were starters for a while. And he just said, we're not having that. The Monte Nicholsons, the Jordan Reeves, the Trent Williams, the Morgan Moses. I can't even think of all of the guys. They just cut the guy who opted out last year. I always get Josh
linebacker
and Sean Dion Hamilton mixed up because they both got the 3 names, but one of them left free agency and one of them opted out, and they just cut him. I don't know if it had anything to do with him opting out or he just can't play. Whatever. He's not playing around with the future of this franchise. He's going to do whatever it takes. And again, at the end of the year, we're going to look at it and we're going to say, did he show improvement? Is this a competitive team, and do we see hope going forward? And that's how we judge him. So you have to, and to be fair, we had to do that with Jay Gruden. We had to do that with Jim Zorn, God forbid. We had to do that with Joe Gibbs 2.0 and Shanny and all. We have to do that as fans because we don't know any better and we don't have any power to do anything about it. So he's got all of my blind trust. Maybe not yours. He's got all of my blind trust until he proves otherwise.
To be fair, again, I know I was going to get myself a little bit in trouble here because I played a little bit of devil's advocate. I trust Ron Rivera. Okay,
Hmm.
I think that, and here, this is what baffles me. You mentioned this, right? There's a lot of hope going into this next season. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people, there's people who still have questions about the QB play, but there's also a lot of people who are thinking Taylor Heineke's like the next greatest thing ever, even though he's been around for 5 years and he was a backup on an XFL team. Like,
Right.
I like the kid too, people, but let's be realistic about our expectations. Now, however, this next season, don't be realistic. Hope for everything because this is a team that's shown a lot of promise. And a lot of that happens to be because of what Ron Rivera is doing. So because there's hope there, to me, that's why he's built up that trust, and we need to trust him. So if you're upset with Morgan Moses being shown the door, and that's why you think a lot of our fans, we did our season pick, our season predictions last week. We've
Hmm.
I've seen that from the DMV Sports 3. Those guys did it as well. They're even higher than us. Like I think a couple of those gents were in the 12 win category. If and I haven't seen their talk on Moses, so we'll have to reach out to them and see how they feel about Moses. But if you go from thinking the team like you or myself are 9 and 10, maybe even 11 wins in the season, and we drop Moses, and you think that now all of a sudden you're going to lose that, you're gonna just Morgan Moses is a fine player,
Hmm.
okay, but he's not winning you 2 to 3 extra games. This isn't like this isn't Green
That's
Bay's
right.
situation getting rid of Aaron Rodgers,
Right.
right? This is Morgan Moses. This is a tackle when you literally spent money. The team has spent money on that position during the offseason. So don't lose trust because he got rid of Morgan and Moses. Lose trust if at week 3 the team looks lost.
Yeah.
Which I
That's
don't
right.
think they will, right? Like, so this is where you have to buy the time and you have to see. And then also you got to take into effect, or into account rather, where they are in the season, what's happening. I think for the Dwayne Haskins situation, which we have a fan who says that he embarrassed us. Dwayne Haskins embarrassed us. His play was pretty bad,
Yeah.
right? But I think Ron had to put him out in there to give him that shot to make sure, like, okay, yeah, this isn't the guy, because this is a quarterback that it's reported that Dan Snyder came off his yacht, right, and was just like, I want this guy. And
Hmm.
even at 15, I thought, okay, this works. Like, he fell to Washington, this is going to be fine. Ron proved he wasn't the guy, got rid of him at the end of the season, and here we are, still searching for a quarterback, but at least we have a team built right now to give us hope and that could potentially win the division. First time back to back in the NFC East for what, 17 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to trust Ron Rivera right now.
I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a big move coming. And I don't mean like monster Aaron Rodgers type move. But I think there's something big brewing because why are they freeing up so much cap space when they already have a fair amount of cap
They
space?
do. It's
Normally by this time,
22 million at this point.
yeah, they give out like 22 million and they don't have anybody else to sign. All the draft picks are signed, all your non-draft pick rookies. Everybody's signed except for Sheriff is not signed long term. But maybe it's just as simple as they're going to get Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne signed. I don't know, but something's brewing, and and it'll be interesting to see. Again, you have a lot that's still going to happen when you get to June 1st. There's some, I don't know exactly what it is, some sort of line
Another
that the cap
deadline.
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cap hits are different pre and post June 1st. And so maybe there are other guys who are going to get let go on this team or other teams that they have their eye on that they think are going to become available. I don't know. But it just seems odd that they do have that much room. Something's not right with the Morgan Moses situation. I don't think it's simply he's a cap casualty. I don't think it's simply he can't play anymore. There was something more to it. But like you said, they've got the leaks locked down, and we don't know what that is, and we'll probably never know. But it's going to be interesting to see what this team looks like again come training camp. It's not going to be as it is right now, constructed as is right now.
which I think is fine. I think that you need to, if you pull back everybody from last season and expect to do better than 7-9, then you're thinking wrong. Like you need to make changes at 7-9 to see improvement, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of good coming from that. We'll see. I'm really interested. You mentioned that they are freeing up that cap space, so let us know. If you're listening, let us know what you think they're freeing that cap space up for. Are they freeing it up for Aaron Rodgers? Are you that hopeful? Or are you thinking maybe this is just more realistically, they're going to sign Jonathan Allen to a big deal and wanted to open up that space? Let us know in our comments on our Twitter at Ref the District. Me personally, I think it's probably more practical. I think they're just freeing up that space so they can make room to sign the defensive unit that they have, so that way they can keep that strong, because you do have some very talented individuals there on the defensive line. We do have fans again that are hoping for Rodgers. I just don't expect that to be the case, because I don't think Green Bay is going to let him go. And if they do let him go, they're not going to want to let him go in the NFC, where they can potentially face against him in the playoffs. So we'll see where that ends up. I'm excited to see where it is. It is a very interesting situation that they, letting players go now, freeing up more space. Someone did point to those Rodgers fans, by the way. Someone did point out, we just so happen to have, Washington happens to have enough cap space right now to take on Aaron Rodgers' contract. So
yeah.
They're
just
putting that out there. Just putting it out there. We'll see where that goes.
That's your famous phrase. Just throwing it out there.
We'll see. So something else that was just kind of thrown out there a little randomly was that Dan Snyder and Jason Wright are traveling around looking at different stadiums and happened to be run up on by a TMZ reporter. Did you watch the video?
Yeah, of course I watched it. And it's 100 billion% a setup. How many off-the-cuff interviews has Dan Snyder given in his 20-plus years as owner? How many? I mean, we don't know exactly, but how many would you say?
Off-the-cuff interviews?
Yeah, just random.
Honestly, I can't think of one that hasn't been done with a podium and the microphones. Right. Not one.
It's never happened before. And so you're going to tell me that some guy just happened upon him in L.A., him and his team of officials with Jason Wright, and there was probably about 15 other people there, and he just graciously walked up and gave a very calm, informed interview to this guy from TMZ Sports, who, by the way, called him Mr. Snyder. He didn't say, hey, Dan. He didn't just say, hey. He called him Mr. Snyder, who is notorious for being a guy who says, you have to call me Mr. Snyder. Everybody has to call me Mr. Snyder. So how is it that he just graciously gave this one interview? There's no way, even if it was strategic in the point of that he wants the information out there that they're looking for new stadium ideas, which is great, but you can do that in a press release. You can have Jason Wright do that, which is what he does. It's just 1 billion% a setup. And for anybody to think otherwise is naive and just plain not all there.
Do you got your tinfoil hat on? Do you got that available? I think this is what I was talking about, right? Like people are so burnt, right, by Dan Snyder, Mr. Snyder, that that they're just like, this has to be faked. One, it's not. I think the situation was this, and that Jason Wright or Julie Donaldson put forth, hey, to TMZ, we're going to be here. This is what we want to talk about. Can you send somebody here? So was it set up in that regard? Yes. Was it set up like to necessarily be, I will say this, TMZ is also known for, having biting questions, right? They're out to get you. They're not there to be friendly. So that part was definitely a little interesting. I don't know if there was maybe some extra little, the relationship there, however that was built, it was something I think that they they put out there to try to get this attention. And I think that they did this strategically because if you're listening, Dan absolutely set this up. Mr. Snyder, I apologize. Mr. Snyder.
No, you're not calling him Mr. Snyder. No. His name is Dan. You don't work for him, and you don't give him that respect of calling him Mr. Snyder if you don't know him.
Mr. Dan Snyder.
Well, his name's Dan.
So Dan put this out there that they're looking at DC, Maryland, and Virginia. He included the entire DMV. So that's a big point of contention here within the fandom of where's it going to go. And what this is doing is it's pitting the communities, the government communities, to fight for having Washington. We've mentioned there's a lot of hope right now. The other thing is that he specifically mentioned a date in there. You remember that? 2027. What happens in 2027? The FedEx lease is up.
Yeah, of course.
So
I mean that's obvious.
Yeah, this is all things that this was strategic communication. This is my field. This is why we had Julie Donaldson and Rael come out to talk to my teams, because this is what we're involved in. And so this is where I trust, being a communications guy, I trust Jason Wright, and I trust the communications teams on what they're doing. And this is I believe this 100%. This was Jason Wright. This is, he was also there because, one, he's the president of football, right? This is his job to find the new stadium and do all that. That's one of the reasons why he was hired. Mm-hmm. There's not been really a move of his that I haven't really liked. I think there's been a few missteps on the communication front. There was a lot of contention when the cheerleaders were dropped and we're going to have a dance team. A lot of people upset because it was announced via Twitter. But for the most part, Jason Wright has earned my trust in that. And I think that this was something he set up. They built that relationship with the TMZ reporter to be like, hey, this is what I want. This is what we're trying to do. Can you facilitate this? And they built that in a way that it worked out exactly as planned. They were like, hey, we're just looking at stadiums, which we knew, right? It was a couple of years ago. We saw stadium plans. Right. They were trying to do it. I personally hope that they are in DC.
Oh, absolutely. That's where they belong.
That's where I want to see them. Even though I'm here in Annapolis, and I'm on the Maryland side, put them in DC. That's what I want to see. So 100%. But yes, this TMZ thing, I think it's funny just because there are people like you who are straight up like, this is like this, there was some people, I won't say you, Stoner, you maybe you think this happened.
You can probably lump me in, but go ahead.
Where there was some money exchanged. So it'd be like, hey, here's my set list of questions. Here's your transcript. Read this transcript, and we're going to be casual. Because that's the other part. And I'm sure you didn't mention this. Fans are going crazy because Dan is out there in casual wear. This guy is never, he's always in a suit when you see him in the organization. I'm sorry, but he's out there in LA, right? Probably a little too hot to be out there wearing a suit at that point, especially walking around a stadium. But again, I don't care how it happened. My guess is it happened, again, strategic communication. They reached out. They built that relationship to get this information out there. And I just think that's exactly what smart people do.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a problem with the message that they're trying to get out there. I'm just saying, and I don't have a problem with any of it, really. I'm just saying, let's call it out for what it is, which is a complete setup. I bet you it's not even a TMZ videographer. I bet you it's just one of the team's guy, and they made it look like it was an ambush. Not an ambush, but, a surprise, impromptu. And they sold it to TMZ. They sold the footage to TMZ. Because, again, have you ever seen a TMZ report where they go up and they see Tom Cruise coming out of a restaurant in LA or something, and they say, Mr. Cruise. No. Tom. They don't do that. And Dan Snyder is famous for having everybody call him Mr. Snyder. So why would just some random videographer who works for TMZ say Mr. Snyder? That was the red flag for me. So again, they probably set it up. They maybe even did it all themselves and sold it to TMZ. Whatever.
You
I'm
don't think
fine with the
TMZ
message.
would report that, by the way? You don't think they'd be like, yeah, this is a sham?
Not when you sign a confidentiality agreement. No.
They must have been paid some really, really good money for
Yeah,
them to follow
absolutely.
suit with that.
And that's good press for Washington. The execution, the again, the finality of it, which is to get the message out there and have Mr. Snyder look normal. God, I did it. And to have Dan Snyder look normal. That's all great. That's smart. That's a Jason Wright, possibly Julie Donaldson idea, and it came off great. It made him look normal, casual, got the information out, and became a story in the off season. Perfect execution. But let's just not think it was just some random uh, uh, meeting together of these. No,
I definitely don't think it was that. I don't think there's enough interest for TMZ to just run
yeah,
up and
exactly.
ask those kind of questions. So again, I think this was Jason Wright. They built that relationship. I know Julie's in charge of the producers and the communication, senior VP in that realm. So this is something I think they purposely set up for those reasons. And I think it was great. I think it was good. The fan takes on it just cracked me up.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to add that in there. So not a scout, not a GM, not a coach, not a senior VP of communications. Just hashtag just a fan.
Yeah, just a fan.
Just a fan. Hashtag just a fan here on Ref the District. That's been the game. Moving on to the post game here in just a little bit. We're going to be talking about our Washington Wizards against those Philadelphia 76ers. All right, Stoner, they did it. They made it. It's the actual postseason playoffs, right? Because they were in the postseason. Now they're in the playoffs. A lot of people are confused with that. Some people actually kind of get a little bit more, pedantic about it, where they're just like, no, it's not. They didn't make the playoffs, which could be a point with the Warriors, where they're not actually. They're at home watching, which I'm sure Bradley Beal's a little happy with Bazemore, who's
yeah, that's right. Let him go golfing now or whatever.
So
go fishing.
We got our Washington Wizards playing against the Philadelphia 76ers. There's some bad blood. A lot of the sports networks right now are trying to pit Westbrook against, Embiid. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, I buy into there's a little bit of bad blood there, absolutely, and which is going to add to the intrigue of this series. But what's going to really get a lot of eyes on this series is that there are a lot of people, including myself, that think this Wizards team has a chance to upset the number one seeds 76ers. I think there's a chance. I don't think in the end that they have enough.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because anytime you've got two superstars, two all NBA players like the Wizards do, you have a chance. Now the Sixers have got a superstar and they've got a couple of extremely good players. They're not superstars. I don't think Ben Simmons is a superstar. He's a very good player. Tobias Harris is a very good player. Embiid is a superstar. He is an MVP candidate for a reason. He's basically unstoppable. But I think the Wizards, they have a shot. And by the way, I like the play-in tournament, if you will, the 7, 8, 9, 10 play-in tournament. I like it. I hope they continue with it. It seems like the NBA was happy with it. So I hope they continue it because it adds a level of excitement. I don't want to hear that, for example, Golden State, like you said, they were the 8th seed going into the play-in and they lost 2 straight, and so they're out. Well, win 2 straight. Don't lose 2 straight. And you can't say, well, in previous years they would have been the 8th seed and they would have had a 7-game series.
And then they would have
well,
been
that's
swept.
Not the rules anymore.
And then they would have been swept.
Yeah.
So now we have somebody else who gets a chance. Not saying that Ja Morant and the Grizzlies aren't also going to get swept. But you're right. I think that excitement also gives way to teams actually trying to get there. Right. That NBA has a problem with tanking. You saw that with Oklahoma City, my Thunder, where all of a sudden they're just not playing their SGA, their star player, and now the Wizards opted not to do that. They could have tanked. You see this plastered everywhere. Westbrook was like, I'm not missing the playoffs. They didn't miss the play in. They are now in the playoffs. And I think that excitement was excellent for the NBA. And I'm hoping that I'm with you. I'm hoping they continue it. I do agree that the Wizards have a punching chance against the 76ers. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think so either.
I think that we'd be happy to see Game 7. I think realistically, Game 6 is the furthest this is going to go.
Probably.
If you look at the games that they've played this season, now granted, the last time that these teams played was in March.
That's right.
Very different team
Very
that
different.
Washington had back in March. So there's the three-headed monster, as Scott Brooks would call them, at the center position, which realistically it's like two teddy bears and then Gafford. Which I know you love and you want him to play some more, but realistically, for his own sake, you can't keep him out there for 30 minutes. You got to play him 20. I don't think that he would be good for 30 minutes. I think that he's.
Are you talking about in this series, or do you just mean just in general?
In general, right now, and at this point in his career, in this series, you might play him more because I don't know. When I watch the games, I don't think Lopez plays defense very well.
He's terrible.
I think that he's a guy who can get rebounds, do his little skyhook thing. Great. Lynn is another one of these ones I'm just like, I'm not even sure why he's on the basketball court at times. Yeah. But
Agreed.
Gafford at least offers some defense. The problem is you're going to need all three of them against Embiid. I think that's just he's going to cause problems. I don't think you really focus so much on Embiid. You try to do your best there, but what you do is you stop the rest of the team, and then you have to have Westbrook and Beal have good games. You have to have Rui Hachimura have a decent game. He's played more than 82 games now. He's not a rookie. He's somebody, even technically not a rookie. I want him to start averaging more in this series. He needs to average, to me, anywhere from 10 to 15 points per game to show that kind of improvement. I know this is his first playoff series, as it is for several of these Washington Wizards. But we need to see that improvement from him. And then the bench play is going to be important. We'll see where it goes. Again, I think that the Wizards will end up falling in 5 or 6, but I think that they do have a chance to really shock the 76ers before the 76ers turn it on. Because if you look at the games from earlier this year, 76ers dominated the Wizards.
Yeah.
Again, different team, but I just don't see it changing, especially with Scott Brooks still as the coach.
Yeah, that's true.
Got to throw in that jab. Got to do that. No, he forever, for what it's worth, Scott Brooks coached a wonderful game last game, so we'll give him credit.
What did he do? Due. He told Westbrook to throw it to guys who are open and those guys to make it. And they did, so he gets credit.
There it goes. That's all you needed to
do. They do need that third wheel. Beal and Westbrook are going to do what Beal and Westbrook do. Although Ben Simmons is a great defender, he's probably going to shut one of them down. They need that third guy. And I don't know who. It doesn't have to be the same guy throughout the series. It can be Rui one game. It can be Bertans one game. It can be Ish. It can be Neto. It can be whoever. They need that third guy to have a big game in every game for them to have a chance. And there's nobody that is going to stop Embiid. There's nobody in the NBA that can stop Embiid. So there's definitely nobody on the Wizards who are going to stop him. But if you can control, like you said, the rest of the guys, the Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons and Seth Curry and all those guys, if you can handle them, then you've got a shot. I think they're going to win game 1. I think they're going to come out on fire and they're just going to blitzkrieg the Sixers, and they're going to steal game 1, and then I think Philly will settle in because Embiid. That's why he's a stud. Do you know this year he averaged 28.5 points, Um,
There we go. I saw them. I saw the old man
yeah.
glasses. I saw
Where's the
them. I was like,
music?
are we going to see it? There we go. Old man glasses
Uh,
are on. Stoner, what we
10,
got?
10.5 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 51% from the field. He shot 38% from three. So he's a threat.
Mhm.
He's not scary out there, but he's a threat to shoot it. And 86% from the free throw line. So when you foul him, he's going to make his free throws. So he
Did
is
you
a scary player.
did you tell me that he has a 38% from three, and then he's not scary out there?
Yeah, he's not
But he's
scary.
38%. Who? Go ahead and look this up. I'm going to give you some
Who,
time. Look this
who
up
on the
on
Wizards?
Washington. Look at the Washington Wizards and tell me who's shooting better than 38% from three. Because I'm sorry, one of the reasons why they lost that game against the Celtics is
Yeah,
because your boy, your man, because we know that I've trashed him a couple times,
yeah,
Bertans just wasn't hitting it, and he can't
right.
afford. When you're talking about that, having that third, person here play for Washington, he needs to show up. They cannot afford him to have a goose egg headed into the third quarter. He doesn't have to do much, but he's got to at least
He's got to hit those
he's got to
shots.
be there so that way they are not keying in on Beal and Westbrook driving. It's not going to happen because Scott Brooks is the coach. But I would also like to see the Wizards do a lot less ISO play. They're, I think, the number one team
Yes.
playing ISO, and that's just the
Oh,
way Scott Brooks runs the show.
I hate
I,
ISO. I
I want
hate.
them to move away from that. But this is the playoffs. They're gonna how they got there was they ran the ISO ball. They're gonna hope that the heroes are heroic,
Yeah,
and that's where I think they're gonna run into issues because they have an off night and Rui and Bertans, you know, Alex Lynn.
oh Lord.
Who do you have as your third option? You're right. We need the team to show up, and honestly, it'd be great if they just all decided to like contribute. I don't need Rui to have a 30-point game. I'm not asking
Right,
for that. But if he
right,
has a 15-point game and Bertans
right.
has 10 points and Ish Smith and Matthews and Neto total 25 points,
That's right.
that's good. That's
That's right.
that's that's a good effort. But what tends to happen is if they have great nights, it means the stars of the show, Westbrook and Beal, are having off nights,
Right.
or those two, more often than not, it's the bench is just emptied and there's nobody helping out.
Yeah. And as you talked about, they've played Philadelphia 3 times this year and they went 0-3 against Philly. The last time was in March. March 12th they played them was the last time. So it's like you said, totally different
Very
team
different team.
than they were on March 12th. And interesting to note that after that game, my glasses. Philadelphia was 26-12 after that game. Washington was 14-22 after that third matchup on March 12th, where they pretty much got blown out by Philadelphia, 127-101. And again, they
That's
had guys on their
that is
team
being blown
starting.
out. Just
Yeah,
FYI. That's
they had
not
Troy
pretty much. That
Brown.
is absolutely a
Yeah,
blowout.
yeah, they had Troy Brown, Mo Wagner, Garrison Matthews were starters in that game. So yeah, it's a totally different team. Since that time, Philadelphia has gone 23-11, which is about what they were
Yeah,
doing up until that time.
respectable.
They're
It's
very
good.
consistent this year. Washington 21-12 since that time. So they've basically been had the same record since the last time they met. So that's why there's a lot of reasons why, but that's one of the reasons I give them a puncher's chance to advance in the series. I don't think it'll happen. I think also in six they get knocked out in 6 games. But hey, please give us another round of games. Get us to a second round, an upset, and that happens. And your boy Scotty will probably be back next year.
No, I
Oh
don't see
no.
that happening. I don't see that happening. I do want to know. I want to see this from our listeners. What do you think is going to happen this series? You can go again, hit us up on our Twitter at Ref the District, or you can let us know here on our YouTube channel where we stream live every Sunday at 10 a.m. If you're
Yep.
listening to us in podcast form, whether or not that be on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, you just let us know as well wherever you can that you enjoy the show. We appreciate the support, and you know what? I think that wraps up today's show, Stoner. So we'll see you next week when we'll be talking Well, we'll have to find out. We'll let you know next week. Have a great day.